Let's get started. So now let's go to the next topic. Your brain. All your brain have is action potential. And we spent a lot of time talking about the neurophysiology, how the cells generate an action potential. And all the action potential are the same. We call it all or none. Either you have one action potential or you have nothing. And all action potential look the same size, the same shape. How your brain are able to use the action potential to identify, okay, that's the sound, that's the light, and where they are, how big they are, and when they start, when they end. So that's the challenge your brain is facing. How they're able to use the action potential, which is all the same size, to identify the natural modality. Natural modality means that's the sound, or that's the light, or that's the touch, and the location, and the intensity, and the duration. So we start from the first one, the natural modality. The reason your brain are able to identify them is because you have not just one sensor, you have 5. That's why you have 5 senses. Even though they all generate action potential, if the brain receives the signal from the eye, your brain knows, oh, that's the light. And it will go to different lobe to analyze the signal, of course. So it will go to the occipital lobe, right? And if the brain receives the signal from the ear, and your brain knows that's the auditory. And from the tongue, it's mainly the tongue and also the pharyngeal, because that's a fancy word to say throat. They can taste flavor, so they know that's the flavor. Or from your body, that's the touch. Or from your nose, there's the smell. So that's how they identify different modality. If you only have one sensor, you could not tell that's the light, that's the sound. So that's why you need to have 5 senses. So this part, problem solved. Now let's look at the location. Location, not too difficult for the eye, not too difficult for the touch, for the body, well, because you have different body part. But for auditory, it's actually challenging. So this picture shows you compare the visual to auditory. For visual, to identify the location is not much a problem. The owl, okay, come from the left, from the right. You're gonna go to the retina. You're gonna hit different part. Retina is like two-dimensional. It's a piece of paper. So they hit different part, and they are able to send a signal to the brain from the different receptor. And your brain know, okay, well, it's from the location. Even though the depth is challenging, because while your retina is two-dimensional, it's a piece of paper, and outside is 3D. So we kind of talk about you need to have 2 eyes, and your brain have to recreate the depth perception by taking the picture and compare the image. Like if you look at an object in front of you, you close your left eye, you close your right eye, you found the object jump a little bit. That's because there's a small angle difference. And your brain can use this angle to recreate the depth perception. So the depth is recreated by the brain. But all the other, the two-dimensional, your retina can completely pick up the signal. So location is not a problem for the visual. Not a problem for somatosensory, because you have the whole body to pick up the different areas, stimulus. Not too much problem for olfactory gustatory, because that's not the main purpose to identify the location. You have very powerful visual system can take over it. Let's look at the auditory. Auditory is a little bit challenging. And the reason is the sound can go to your left ear, can also go to your right ear. So how you are able to identify different location? Apparently you have no problem identify the sounds come from your front, come from your left, come from your right. And the reason is the sound travel much slower compared with the light. So the sound travel about 340 meter per second. And your head is about 0.3 meter. So we do the math, we found, okay, the sound come from the left, gonna go to the left ear a little bit faster compared with the right ear. A little bit means millisecond, 1 millisecond. And that's good enough, because your neuron can generate action potential very quickly. So we just compare the sound difference, reach the left ear, reach the right ear, and so you need to have 2 ears. And your brain can create a whole map. They can use the time difference. You see, it's less than 1 millisecond. It's microsecond difference. If the sound come from the front, there's no time difference, and come from the back, no time difference. Come from the different angle, they create a sound. They create the map, so they can use this map to identify where the sounds come from. And for the front, for the back, well, the sound difference is the same, but we won't go deeper than that. It's because your ear, actually, the shape is not symmetric. That's the reason your ear is completely not symmetric, because it can reflect the sounds differently. So it can help you to identify the sound come from the front and the back. So your auditory system can still be able to use to identify the location. And if you train, well, some people are very good at doing this. Yeah. And let's look at the somatosensory. Somatosensory system, they use, because your skin covers your whole body, so they use a different location receptor to identify the different location of the stimulus. And in some sensitive body part, we talk about a sensitive body part, especially your lips, your finger, they even make the resolution higher. They have a small receptor field, that's correct. And they have another strategy called lateral inhibition. And this part happens in the signal transduction part. So they use this to increase the resolution, the sensitivity. It's called the lateral inhibition. So let's see what happens. If you provide a stimulus on your skin, okay, what can happen is you're going to press the center. You also press the peripheral. You cannot avoid that. So the signal going to look like this. The center part, yeah, receive the most pressure. But the peripheral part, especially in the sensitive body part, each receptor field is small. So you touch a small area, but still the peripheral one will be activated a little bit. So the stimulus look like this. It's like, okay, 30%, 60%, 30%. And when this kind of signal go to the brain, it's good. It's not perfect, it's good. Your brain gonna look at this and say, oh, your brain has its actual potential. You're gonna say, okay, 30% from A, 60% from B, 30% from C, right? It's like you do the test, you're doing the multiple choice. And you look at the answer, you say, okay, well, 30% maybe A, and B look more likely 60%, and C look like 30%, and you look at the answer E, more than one above, correct, and you start to scratch your head, say, well, okay, is that correct? And you got confused. You really hope your answer gonna look like this. You want to look at answer A, say, no, impossible, that's wrong. And you look at answer B, say, yeah, this is 100% correct. And you look at the answer C and say, no, Dr. Chen, you're tricking me. And you choose answer B, you go to the next question. You want your response to be like this. So this happens not in the receptor part, because the small receptor field, they can only create this. So you have to do it in the neural transduction part, in the neural network. In the sensory neuron, because they have more than one neuron before they reach the brain. They're going to stop in the spinal cord first, and from the spinal cord going to go to the thalamus. Thalamus, I told you, is like a train station. All the information need to go to your somatosensory cortex, need to go through the thalamus, and from the thalamus, a third neuron go to your somatosensory cortex. So at least 3 neurons, well, not at least, it's 3 neurons. So they can do this. They can do this. They have time to process the information even before they reach the brain. So let's see what happened. And your first neuron, okay, they receive the stimulus. All they can do is to reflect the stimulus. So more, less, less. And that's their response. Release more neurotransmitter, less neurotransmitter. That's all they can do. That's the best they can do. They can provide. Now let's look at the second neuron. The second neuron is going to transfer signal from the spinal cord to the thalamus. And they play some tricks here. So they found the central neuron. Yeah, it will connect with the third neuron release neurotransmitter, but it also provides 2 lateral inhibition. And they inhibit these 2 synapses. And that's why we need to have inhibitory neurotransmitter, like GABA we talk about. And they're going to inhibit this too. So when they go to this layer, the central one going to release neurotransmitter, but these 2 peripheral actually inhibit, so they release nothing. And when the signal go to the third layer, The center one release a lot of neurotransmitter, the peripheral one release nothing. So this is, I use the word contrast. Contrast, if you like photography, the contrast is some way you can do to make your signal sharp. It does not really increase the signal. The signal is the same. It just decrease the peripheral. So the center part stand out. That's how they do the lateral inhibition. And when the brain receives the signal from A, from B, from C, and neurons, they like to generate action potential. They like to fire. They like to release neurotransmitter. They are born to do that. And when the brain receives the signal, they found that A and the C, their signal response is even lower than the baseline, and B is higher. It's pretty easy for the brain to know, okay, B is the signal and A and C are not. So this is called the lateral inhibition. And this way the skin used to increase the resolution in some sensitive body part, like your finger, your lips. The lateral inhibition. So it not happens in the receptor part, it happens in the neural network part. And how they use action potential to identify the amplitude, how big the signal is, and the location. Not the location, we'll finish the location. The amplitude and the duration, how long it is. And all the action potential are the same. So they cannot use the action potential size because they're all the same size. You don't have 50% action potential, you don't have 200% action potential. But thanks to the action potential is very quick. It takes about 2-3 milliseconds to finish one action potential. So you have no problem generate another one. And it takes a lot of energy. That's why your brain use 15 to 20% of your body energy, even though it just weight about 2 to 3% of your body weight. It also produces a lot of waste particle. So your brain uses a lot of energy to generate a lot of action potential. Say you have a big stimulus, a small stimulus, the big one, the small one, and they could not change the action potential amplitude because all the amplitude are the same, but they change the action potential frequency. They make it more frequent. So in those 10 seconds, they generate 1,000 action potential if this is a big stimulus, like I pinch your skin. And if I just gently touch your skin, well, the stimulus is small. In those 10 seconds, they just generate 100 action potential. So your brain can use the frequency of the action potential to identify it's a big stimulus or a small stimulus. And the last one is duration. I pinch you. I won't do that, just an example. I pinch you. Okay, when it start, when it stop, and it's the duration of the whole action potential from the beginning to the end represent the duration of the stimulus. So it turned out you can use the action potential, which is the same size, to code all different kind of the stimulus, different kind of information. Okay, let's talk about one more thing. All the sensory system adapt. Some adapt quicker, others adapt slower. The pretty obvious one, smell. Like you smell something, it takes about 30 seconds to 1 minute and it's gone. It's not because the stimulus is not there. The stimulus is still there. It's because the action potential. So your sensory system, they all adapt. Some adapt slower, like the pain sensation. Okay, it hurt in the beginning and then it still hurt, but it does not hurt that much. And the reason is not the stimulus. The stimulus is still there. It's the neuronal signal, action potential frequency decrease. So let's talk about why they all adapt. We call it adapt. And the reason is your brains have a lot of information to handle. So your brain only want to have something change. If it does not change, usually it does not provide the critical information for your brain to survive. Like the light is on and after sunrise, it will be there for 12 hours. So it does not provide critical information until it changes. So your brain care more about the changing part. That's why the sensory system, they all adapt. And the olfactory adapt very quickly, and the pain adapts slower. Okay, let's take a break.